The wind howled through the canyons like a wounded beast, carrying with it the scent of rain and gunpowder. On the edge of a dying ranch, where the fences leaned and the soil cracked from drought, lived Ethan Cole, a poor rancher barely hanging on to hope. His cattle were thin, his barn roof leaked, and his days blurred into endless labor. Yet despite the emptiness of his life, his heart still beat with the stubborn kindness of a man who refused to turn away from those in need. That night, as the storm clouds gathered over the western plains, Ethan heard something unusual, screams carried by the wind, faint but desperate. He grabbed his rifle and lantern, his boots sinking into the mud as he followed the sound toward the hills. Through the flashes of lightning, he saw chaos unfolding, a wagon overturned, horses panicked, and two young Apache sisters surrounded by wolves drawn by the scent of spilled food. Ethan didn't think, he acted. He fired into the air, shouting to draw their attention. His lantern swinging wildly, the wolves turned toward him, their eyes glowing like embers. Ethan stood his ground, reloading fast, but there were too many of them. One lunged, teeth sinking into his arm. He fell hard, the rifle slipping into the mud. Just as another wolf charged, he grabbed a burning branch from the wrecked wagon and swung it with every ounce of his strength. The animal yelped and fled, and soon the rest followed, vanishing into the rain-soaked darkness. The two girls stared at him, trembling, eyes wide with shock and fear. Ethan dropped the torch and sank to his knees, clutching his bleeding arm. "You're safe now," he said weakly, his voice rough but gentle. The older sister, Naya, stepped forward hesitantly and pressed a strip of cloth to his wound. Her younger sister, Ava, whispered in their native tongue, her words soft and rhythmic, a prayer of gratitude for the stranger who had risked his life for them. Ethan guided them back to his ranch, where he lit a fire and gave them his last bit of food, some dried beans and bread. The girls spoke little, but their eyes said enough. They were from a nearby Apache camp, traveling alone after a raid gone wrong. Ethan didn't ask for details. He just offered them warmth and shelter. As dawn approached, he watched them sleep beside the fire, realizing he hadn't felt this kind of peace in years. When morning came, Ethan awoke to find them gone. His barn door was open, and the tracks of many horses led away into the desert. For a moment he feared the worst, that their people had come and taken them by force, or that the wolves had returned. But as he stepped outside, he saw something glinting in the sunlight on the fence. Post, a silver bracelet engraved, with tribal markings. It wasn't just jewelry, it was a sign of honor, a token from the Apache themselves. Ethan didn't know what it meant yet, but deep down he sensed something was coming, something far bigger than he could imagine. And as he stared at the empty horizon, he whispered to himself, "I just hope saving those girls didn't bring trouble to my door." Before we move to the next chapter, if you're loving this story of courage, kindness, and destiny, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, because what happens next will change Ethan's life forever when the Apache Chief himself arrives at his ranch. The next morning, Ethan's ranch was surrounded. Dust rose in clouds as over 50 Apache warriors on horseback formed a wide circle around his land. Their painted faces and sharp spears shimmered in the early light, silent and unmoving. At their head rode a tall man draped in animal hide, his hair braided with eagle feathers, the chief himself, Taza. The tension in the air was so thick, Ethan could almost feel it pressing against his chest. He stood at his fence, his hands raised, heart pounding like thunder. The warriors didn't move. Then Taza dismounted, his boots crunching softly against the dry earth. Behind him rode Naya and Ava, the same sisters Ethan had saved. They were unharmed, and their eyes were filled not with fear, but with quiet respect. The chief approached Ethan slowly, eyes sharp as a hawk's. "You," he said in broken English, "you helped my daughters." Ethan nodded cautiously, did what any man should have done. The chief studied him for a long moment, saying nothing. His warriors shifted slightly, gripping their spears. Finally, Taza stepped closer, his deep voice carrying the weight of command. "Our law says no white man enters our warpath and lives. But our spirit law says a man who Save's family must be honored. Ethan swallowed hard, unsure what to expect. The chief continued, "You risked your life alone when others would have turned away. You fought the wild and gave your home to my blood. For that you are no longer just a rancher, you are brother to the Apache." The crowd murmured. Ethan blinked, stunned. "Brother?" he repeated. Taza nodded. "Yes. From this day, no warrior will raise a weapon against your land. You will have peace and protection." Before Ethan could respond, Naya stepped forward and tied a small eagle feather to his arm, the same way their warriors wore them in battle. "So the wind will always know your courage," she said softly. Ava smiled, whispering, "You saved us, and now we save you." For the first time in years, Ethan felt tears well up. He wasn't just a poor rancher anymore. He was part of something greater, a bond forged not by blood, but by bravery and kindness. The chief raised his hand, and the warriors all saluted Ethan before turning their horses back toward the horizon. The dust cloud they left behind shimmered like gold in the morning sun. As silence returned, Ethan stood at the edge of his fence, clutching the feather and bracelet. The dry land didn't seem so hopeless anymore. The same soil that had once failed him now felt alive, with meaning, with connection, with hope. He looked up at the sky and smiled faintly. "Guess I'm not alone anymore," he whispered. And that's how one act of compassion changed the fate of a forgotten rancher forever. If you felt the courage and heart in Ethan's story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends who love powerful Western tales. Your support keeps these stories alive, and there are many more to come from the heart of the wild frontier.